had my first job in the same hospital where I did my internship.
The reality of life is that you may never get that grace to learn again.
I'm not trying to throw flowers at myself. I was a very committed student to the extent that my classmate used to call me errand boy.
Internship is that year where you are allowed to not know anything.
You're welcome to
Yeah.
this session of LabTalk Podcast, and we're happy to have you from Nigeria.
Thank
Right?
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
I
much.
have to highlight the country because you guys are amazing people. So getting a guest speaker from Nigeria is an immense privilege because you have a lot of experience when it comes to medical laboratory sciences, and I'm happy to have you join us to discuss and chat on this very interesting topic on how to get a best for my internship in medical laboratory sciences. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
So how do you feel about the session?
I feel excited. I feel happy to talk about this because I know it is something that I would have loved to hear about as, a student that was just about to begin internship. I feel like there's a lot of information gap that is yet to be filled when it comes to medical laboratory science internship. There's so much misinformation and lack of information out there, and honestly, I'm happy to be here to help to fill that gap in some way.
Thank you very much. And we're happy to have you. It's an immense
Thank
privilege.
you.
So we are definitely going to have an amazing session of
Okay,
discussion.
look forward to
So
that.
before even riding or dive into questions for the day, we like to know you. Who is Ms.
Okay.
Blossom Fawole, and tell us more about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am Blossom Fawole, a graduate of medical laboratory science. I just completed my 1 year medical internship at Lab Nigeria. Personally, I'm just a girl who enjoys content creation, who enjoys talking, who enjoys, being happy, having fun, hanging out with my friends, reading a book, listening to podcasts like this one. So I'm just a very, I would say, career driven yet fun person.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's amazing. I love the very aspect of listening because that's what I love doing as well, listening to very inspiring things and insightful things. There's one particular person that I love from your country. His name is Apostle Femi Lazarus. I don't know if you know him.
Okay. Yes, I do.
Oh my God, such an amazing person. Whenever he releases a podcast, I think he has this podcast called the Classified Podcast. So I
Okay.
always get to listen. Every time he releases an episode, I always get to listen because every episode brings something new, and it's information that we need as youths, especially in this our generation.
Yes.
So your country is blessed. I must say, your
Thank
country is
you.
blessed. So we are going to be discussing today about a very interesting topic, right? You say you are just from finishing your internship at Lab Nigeria, and which is an amazing place, right? Internship is a great step when it comes to being a great professional in our life. So we're going to discuss about internship. How do we get the best out of an internship as a medical laboratory student? So that's what we're discussing about today. First, would like to tell us what is an internship, first of all.
Well, I see a medical internship as a learning experience. I see it as an opportunity to move from the theoretical aspect of your career and your profession to hands on practical experience. Because, of course, when you're in the class, when you're learning about the body parts, about the sample bottles, and all of that, it may feel very theoretical, it may feel very impossible. It may feel like a story. In fact, it may feel like fiction
Yeah,
until you get to see it, until you get to actually practice it. you would then begin to understand it better. You will develop a better understanding of everything you've been taught and everything you've learned in class, sitting in front of a teacher and listening to them talk. Sometimes when you're in a class, what you're being taught may not really sink in. You may not really understand what is being said, which I know happens to us a lot. But when you finally get to practice it with the right direction, you begin to develop a better understanding of that concept and of that topic. So I think that is what internship is. It drives home the theoretical part of what you've been taught, the 5 years of learning, and it helps you to develop a more solid understanding, a deeper understanding of the topic or the concept that you've been taught for years.
Wow. Thank you very much for that. Very important, especially moving from theory to practice. Without internship fully, we will not master the practice
Yes.
because you can get to learn all the theories, read all the books, but in as much you have not touched maybe a pipette in a lab, you might not know how to pipette
Yes,
fully. Even if they teach
exactly.
you for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, if you have not done the practice, you cannot really show the proof that you've mastered the particular concept, which is very, very important. And
Yes.
you finish with an internship from similar prestigious place. I think I would love to work there. I would
Yeah,
love to
it
work
is
at
a
similar
very
someday.
fantastic place. Yeah.
I would love to work there someday. I don't know if the similar can work, but I'll do well to implement one year. So thank you very much for that answer. Uh, Now getting to an internship placement, right? Why is it so important? You've mentioned a lot of points in your previous answer of the importance of an internship. That's getting to know the practical aspect of what you have learned in theory in classrooms. And getting to an internship placement, what would I say? Because you cannot just you have to have a pre-knowledge before getting to an internship post, maybe a lab, a research institute. What's the mindset that each student should have before getting into an internship placement? What's the mindset?
I think the number one mindset, the number one thing that should be at the back of every student is I'm here to learn. You can't walk into an internship or into an organization and you're not ready to learn. You're not ready to put in the work to learn. You're not ready to really understand, what you've been learning for so many years. So I think the first mindset and the basic mindset that every student should have when they are about to, start their internship is I'm here to learn, is a drive for understanding things better, a drive to learn better, to absorb as much as you can, because so much is going to happen at once. And you need to make it a priority to make sure that you don't leave there empty handed. You are learning something that will build your career, will take you to the next level. You are looking around and making sure that you are positioning yourself in a way that you can absorb as much information as you need. You can move from the level in which you came in as a student with zero experience to a professional, to a more learned professional. Of course, you can't gain all the experience at once, but you make sure that the way you came in, you don't live like that. Because if came in like a greenhorn, you don't know anything, and you're living with the same way you came with as much information as you came in with, you have wasted your time, you have wasted your professional years, you have wasted your career years, you have wasted, that 1 year, which was for you to learn. Because the reality of life is that you may never get that grace to learn again. Internship is that year where you are allowed to not know anything. You are allowed to come in and say, "Oh, I don't know how to, perform this test. I don't know how to do this." And people are going to smile and say, "I understand. I'm going to help you." So you have to take advantage of that period. Of course, MLS is a forever learning career. You are always learning as an MLS, of course. You will always learn, especially in any science field. I'm not disputing that. but there are some basics that you must learn as an intern. There are some things that you must know as somebody who has passed through internship. So if you go into your internship without the mindset, without the drive, without the, you know, belief or the readiness to learn and to absorb as much information as you can, and you come out on the other side greener than you even went in, it's going to be an embarrassment to you, to your profession, and it may set you back in some way. Because remember, you went in with other people who are also trying to build their career, and you're both all going to step into the world, you're all going to try to push yourself forward, you're all going to try to, you know, make it, let's use the word make it in the world. So what's going to set you apart?
Yeah.
What's going to be that thing that makes you that professional, that's going to make that organization look for you, want to work with you, if you haven't absorbed as much information as you could in what you have made your identity, which is your career? Because remember, your career is also part of your identity. So it is very important that every student stepping into internship, stepping into that space and saying, oh, I want to do this, should understand that they're not just doing it so they can move on to the next phase of life, or it's just something to pass through. They're doing it so that they can learn and they can be better.
Thank you very much. Amazing point. Always ready to learn. Uh, when you were mentioning this point, I just flashed back to my years of internship here at the original hospital here in Bamenda. It's a town. Bamenda is a town. So every town has a regional hospital. So I remember that when I was in on internship at that time, I'm not trying to throw flowers at myself. I was a very committed student to the extent that my classmates used to call me errand boy because I was always available to work with every professional at the time, because it's an avenue for you to learn and get closer to them, because you getting closer to them, they might reveal some things that they will not reveal on a normal day. So that's a title that I earned during my internship, errand boy.
That's
So internship is an amazing place, and the point you mentioned is very important. Always have that mindset of you are coming to learn something, because if you don't have that mindset, you might come in and leave the same way you entered at that very laboratory, which is very important to have that at the back of your mind, that you are coming here to learn, not to come and play or to come and distract others, because they're always recalcitrant students. I guess
yes,
there are some in your batch, right? They're
yes.
always the recalcitrant ones. So thank you very much for that point. That leads us to the
Well,
next question. What are three mistakes that the students should avoid before getting into a laboratory for internship? From my
okay.
own experience, I
From
believe
my own
I
experience.
believe when going through the internship period, you realize some aspect that you have to put in place before getting into the laboratory. What are those things that you tell a student to put in place before getting on an internship?
Okay. Okay. So if I was to advise a student, that was about to start internship and I wanted to tell them, oh, you need to avoid these three mistakes. I would say the first thing is to avoid shame. Avoid the trap of shame. The shame of, oh, I don't know enough. Oh, I don't know anything. Oh, they're going to know that I don't know anything. Oh, maybe what I learned in school, I don't know it very well. You need to avoid that trap of that shame, because a lot of people and a lot of scientists that are going to train you, they understand what you're going through. They've been in the position that you've been, they've gone through internship, they've gone through, what you are going through right now, and it's not new to them, right?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I was
I'm
wondering if you
getting
were still there. I
I'm
couldn't
getting
see
you.
you anymore.
I'm getting some notice about network ban. I'm trying to like regulate it with the video. Anyway, let me get
Okay.
to the video.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like I was saying, they should avoid the trap of of shame, or feeling like, oh, I don't know anything, or what if I don't know enough? Oh, are the scientists not going to hate me for not knowing basic things? What if I forget this definition? Most of the times you're just in your head.
Yeah.
Scientists know better. They know that MLS is a practical work. They know that it's possible for you to not know this and to not know some certain things. And even if you are in, because the reality is that there are some toxic environments, even if you are in a toxic environment like that, where you are actually being shamed for not knowing certain things, all I would advise you to do in that period is to, first of all, make sure you do not internalize the shame. Secondly, make sure that you try your best to catch up so that you are not put in that spot again by reading ahead before you go to a new unit. For instance, if you know that you're being rotated into hematology units tomorrow, try to read up on the basic concepts that you know would always come up, like full blood counts, all of those. Try to read up on that, try to prepare yourself, but overall, know that you not knowing something is not the end of your professional career. It's not that you are stupid. It's not that, oh, you are not going to make it or you're not a smart enough student. It means nothing if you don't know something or you don't remember something. It's not a thing of shame, because remember, internship is where you are coming to learn. So this is the opportunity for you to understand that, oh, I don't know the answer to this. That tells me something. And what that tells me is that I need to brush up on this. And maybe I do not have as much understanding of this topic as I thought I did. So it's time for me to learn more on it. Sorry. And then for the second advice I would give, mistake I would tell every intern to avoid is, make sure you do not internalize any kind of office politics or toxic office system, because the reality is that a lot of hospital systems are can be quite toxic in a way. I use the word toxic not as a umbrella term, but just different people have different applications of the word toxic. For some people, it's the way they are spoken to. For some people, it's how they are disregarded. But make sure you do not internalize it, because the moment you begin to internalize it, you will lose sight of what you are here for, which we spoke about in the beginning, and that is you learning.
Yeah.
And once you get to your emotions, you get to your feelings, and you're unable to focus on your number one objective as a student who is transitioning into internship, you may not grasp as much information as you need to. You may not build as much relationships as you need to. And it's very, very vital for you. And then the third one also links to my second point, and that is, make sure you build relationships. So this one may not be very professional in the sense of, okay, professionalism, but I think it is very important, because the connections you make, the people you meet, the relationships you build, those are the relationships that lead to connections in the future. Those are the things that really uplifts a person's life. Because if you try to pretend that professional relationships do not improve your life as a professional, you are lying because you need people to move in life. It would be a big mistake to not build relationship with the scientists around you, with the technicians around you, with your fellow healthcare professionals. If you work in a hospital, for example, you should try to build relationships with the nurses, every other professional working with you, because it is very important and it is vital that you understand that as an intern, you are at the start of your career. So you need as much help as you can get to go up. The most random person could give you information about a webinar, or a congress or something that you attend and will change your life forever. The most random person will give you a tip that will stick with you forever and would completely turn around your professional life. It is very vital, and I think it is not spoken about enough, because of course, be professional. Okay, yeah, learn red blood cells, learn, white blood cells and their differentials. Yeah, learn that. But make sure you also understand, you know, getting to know people and building relationships. So those are the three mistakes I would tell every intern to avoid.
Thank you very much for highlighting this very, very point. Avoiding shame and avoiding to internalize some toxic environment what happens to you because some people see it as a major difficulties and some tutors even go to the extent of shutting down and it stops their learning, which is not good.
Yes.
And the third point you mentioned is building relationship. Very, very interesting. And that leads us to our next question, which is to what are the skills that an intern can build? Because internship is not just all about learning the pipetting, learning the test, learning how to run hepatitis test and all of that. There are other skills that we need to learn. So what are those other skills that one can learn during internship? I believe you have mentioned one, which is building relationships.
Yes, that
So
was going to be my first point. So, of course, my first point would lead to my last mistake to avoid, which is to build relationship. You need to learn how to develop interpersonal relationships, not only build them, but to also sustain them. You need to learn that because, of course, they are a driving force for your career. They are what will take you to the next level. And then the second thing I would advise every intern to learn is to build other skills and learn to learn from other areas of life. Make sure you don't limit yourself to just MLS. And what I mean by that is that other skills can support your career because during my internship, I doubled down on my content creation skills. Normally, I like to create content. I create content personally. But during my internship, I started to diversify into MLS content, into talking more about MLS and, all of that. And I think that skill really mattered because it helped during the internship. It helped us to create a lot of content that I'm sure you've seen on LinkedIn.
yeah,
We made a lot of video content and, we had a lot of fun doing that because the career, the profession is a lot more than just pipettes and slides.
that's
MLS is a huge
very,
one, and a lot of people are not as informed about MLS as you would think.
mhm,
So those kind of skills, like soft skills that you can learn as, a medical laboratory scientists are very important. And then I would advise every intern to brush up on their computer and technical skills. The world is evolving, and so should you. I think I even had a post on that where I was mentioning that the world is evolving, the
mhm,
world is getting better, things are moving at a pace that
yeah.
we can't even imagine. Like AI is
It's
doing a
very
lot of
true.
things now,
Mhm,
automation is moving up, and you can't keep coming up with the excuse of, oh, I don't know how to use AI, oh, I don't know how to use the computer, oh, I don't know how to use the system. It won't work for you because the world is evolving and you should evolve too. I remember there was a time when one of my scientists, she asked me to work with Excel. Okay, he was actually my quality assurance manager. So he asked me to help him to create like a statistics chart for us to see, some necessary things. And then when he asked me to do that, my first response was, sir, I don't know how to do this. Like, why would you expect me to know how to do this advanced Excel thing? And he's like, no, you should know how to do it. You should understand how to, you should have the knowledge of, being able to create a chart, like a statistic chart on, Excel. Like this is something that is basic. And then he put me through it. He taught me a whole lot of things that I thought were too advanced and unnecessary for me to know. And I think that really shifted my perspective. It really taught me a lot. I was like, oh, okay, there's so much to know, and it is even related to MLS. So MLS is not just okay running samples in the lab. MLS is improving, MLS is moving, and if you stay stuck, you are again reducing your fighting chance in the profession. Another skill I think you need to build is communication skills because yeah, you're an MLS, and I know we all love to say MLS is the
the
profession
Bible.
for introverts. And yes, it's
That,
very
that's a slogan that I hate so much. I so hate that one.
because everybody likes to say MLS is the profession for introverts, but you have to learn communication skills. You need to learn how to communicate. You never know where you'll find yourself. You
Yeah.
can find yourself having to communicate with clients, having to explain things. Okay, you have to explain to them this, you have to talk to them about this. What are you going to do at that moment? Okay, as a scientist, you have to develop communication skills even outside of okay, patients. Just as a scientist, as a professional, as a career professional, you must be able to learn how to communicate clearly. I think it's not right for you to be a professional and then you are telling me you don't know how to, communicate clearly to you explain and
Patient.
express yourself
Yeah.
professionally. It's not right. It's not something that you should be proud of to say because it's something that can be developed and you should definitely take the time into developing it. And then I think another skill I would say, which is to an extent maybe not that, deep, but for me, I think it's very important that MLS know develop their writing skills too, because like I said, the world is evolving. As a scientist, you need to learn how to express yourself not only orally but also written in a written form because MLS has passed Staphylococcus aureus scene to the modern scene. You need to learn how to
Exactly.
express yourself more as a
Mhm.
scientist and you know so much. And I think overall, just make sure that you are committed to developing yourself. You are learning something, you are always learning something, you are never stagnant. It doesn't even matter what area. I think when I want to, you know, I want to, let's say, get a certificate, a new certificate, I always ask myself, okay, how will this help me? So I could get a certificate in something like caregiving. And some people might argue that okay, that has nothing to directly do, doesn't have anything to do directly with MLS. But
Okay.
I think that as a medical professional, I'm supposed to, understand the art of, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
caregiving because I am in the health line, I am helping and working with patients. I need to understand them more and all of that. And then I think the last one would be your emotional intelligence. So that might not be a skill, but I think every medical professional needs to develop a lot of empathy because that's what will help you, do your work better. When you see every sample as a human being, you have that empathy. When you see a blood sample, you're like, oh my God, this is a human being. It helps you do your work better. It helps you to be thorough. It helps you to be, time conscious. It helps you to care because a lot of people said that over time, medical professionals we always tend to become, we lose our empathy. You must never let that be you. You must always get to a point where you don't feel indifferent towards samples. You don't feel indifferent when you see a blood culture bottle or you see a culture plate. You know that is somebody out there is waiting for that result. Somebody wants to know what happens at the end of that. Then that helps you when you work, when you're like, okay, you grew, you maybe you're in microbiology, you grew the person's sample on a plate, nothing grows there, and then you move on and say, okay, I didn't see anything. When you see when you build your emotional intelligence and then you understand that you need to be empathetic towards this sample, it helps you to be a better professional all around. So those are the skills I think every medical laboratory scientist should build outside of just career, outside of just MLS and all of that.
Okay. Those are very interesting points. Very, very, very interesting. And those are aspects that, and those are points that, or skills that are not taught in school. We never learned that in school. I don't know if you were taught that in school, but for me, I was never
No, I
taught that,
wasn't.
especially emotional intelligence, how to handle your emotion, especially in regards to other people. Because you come across patients that are nervous, angry, happy, sad, very emotional, maybe due to a condition or another. So it's very important that as a professional, you know how to manage your own emotion in regards to the other. Because if you can't control your emotions, it's going to be very, very dangerous. Very
Yes.
dangerous. So, still a follow-up question to the previous one, which is a point that you mentioned previously, building a relationship, right? How do you keep
Yes.
the bond, especially with your supervisors? after the end of after your internship, maybe after you left your internship, how do you continue that relationship? How do you first of all build it, sustain it, and how do you continue improving on that relationship after your internship? Was very important. You mentioned a point where maybe your supervisor can share an opportunity with you or an offer that may be able to apply, which is very important and can help you in the long run. So how do you do that?
Okay. So let's start with building relationship with your supervisors, with your colleagues, and with your leaders in general. So I think the first thing you need to understand is that they are human. At the end of the day, they are human just like you. A lot of people get scared when it comes to relating with leaders, and maybe I'm speaking from a place of privilege because where I did my internship, my leaders they related to us, well. They, reminded us that leadership and toxicity do not need to exist in the same space. You can
Wow.
respect somebody without fearing them, and I think even if you find yourself in a toxic environment, I think you just need to focusing on those who are still approachable, because even in a toxic environment, there will be that nice scientist or that nice HOD or that nice team lead or that nice supervisor. You spend and focus your and direct your energy towards that nice people. Now let's leave the toxic part and let's talk about in general how to build a relationship. I think it just comes from okay, letting time, review things, letting things play out, and then of course also putting yourself out there. So you need to let both work hand in hand. You don't want to seem like a desperate person. First day you're there, you're saying, "Man, can I have your number?" Or yeah, the first day you're there, you're already trying to get address to her house. That's going to be so weird. She's going to be like, "What's going on here? Like, do I know you?"
Are you trying to kidnap me?
Yeah, exactly. So you need to remember that these are humans, and no human being is just going to let their guard down immediately. And once they meet you, you have to give them time to know you. You have to give them time to want to have you in their professional space. And you have to do that by putting yourself forward with your best foot. You have to do that by, offering to help them when you see they need help and when they ask you to help them, by being your best self professionally. Don't be that person who isn't coming for their shift, who is not around. They're always looking for you when it's time for you to start your shift. And you want to build a relationship with your supervisor. She's not gonna like you, or he is not gonna like you, because
Very true.
he's not going to want a lazy person around who is dragging the work behind. He's not going to want somebody who is not, being their best self professionally. So, as a person, I think to build a relationship with somebody you admire, you need to first of all work on yourself. You need to make sure that you are being your best self, you are showing up professionally, you are being professional, you are doing everything that is necessary to be a good professional, meaning starting from your looks. Are you dressing professionally to work, or are you the scientist that they're always chasing around to wear gloves?
Button your jacket every time.
Like it's not going to be nice for that profession, for that supervisor. The person is going to find it hard to like you, because remember they are human. Them being human goes both ways. It means one, they are approachable eventually and they are not some monster. But it also means two, they may not like you if you don't put your best self forward. So you need to make sure that you are putting your best self forward. I'm repeating myself, but because I need to emphasize that. And then two, after you have shown up professionally, you are doing what you're supposed to do, then you're having conversations with them day in, day out. Eventually, if maybe they are not the kind of person to ask you to give you their number, you know that at some point you have to ask. You just approach them and say, "Hello, ma, hello, sir. Please, I would like to have your number, ma. I really admire you," or something like that, something along those lines, because you are the one that knows the context of the kind of person they are. So you will know how to approach them better. You will figure that out in your head, and then you speak to them and ask them for their number over time. But sometimes it comes up naturally. Most of my team leads, it happened from, oh, Blossom, I just want you to help me do this. Let me get your number so I can communicate with you. Oh, Blossom, I want to send you this so you can help me. And then I got their numbers from there. And we still see each other's statuses. We still communicate, congratulate each other from time to time. So that was how it worked with most of my team leads. And my scientists, while there were other scientists who I actually approached and said, hello, please, I would like your number. And most of them, trust me, it is not as daunting as it seems. Most of them will be very happy to give you their number because they also would like to have you in their professional space. You think you don't have anything to offer, but scientists are looking at you. They don't just see an intern or someone doesn't know anything, they see a fellow professional. Most professionals who actually know what they are doing, who are not toxic people, they would look at a fellow intern and say, okay, that's a professional that's coming up. Let me also get to know them. So while you are seeing it as what would they want to get from me? Would they even like to talk to me? What do I have to offer them? Don't think about it that way. Be confident and just ask, of course, in the most respectful way, and make sure you remember the context of the relationship that is occurring between you and that professional. So I think that would be my advice for building it. And then for sustaining the relationship, I don't think you need to do anything too much. I just think you need to make sure that you constantly communicate, you constantly message them, not all the time, not every day, because of course you're not their lover. But when it's appropriate, maybe
Yeah.
it's their birthday, you celebrate them, you message them, you congratulate them, you wish them, you post them on your status or on social media. You communicate with their posts if they're active on LinkedIn. My leaders that were active on LinkedIn, I made sure to always comment on their posts, to tag them when I'm celebrating something that I know involves them, and to make sure that when there's something they do that I think is worth an applause, I will always be in their DMs, congratulating, supporting them. It's not just when you need something from them, because, like I said again, they are human and that goes both ways. If they feel like all you want is to get from them, they will get tired of you. You need to make sure that you are valuable to them both ways. You are wishing them, you're not always just talking to them for the purpose of getting something from them. People can sense that. They can sense when you only want a relationship with them because you want to get something from them. You need to make sure that you're bringing more to the table as a professional.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Very, very
You're
elaborate.
welcome.
And I think I can use that as a guide, as a guide for laboratory students. Thank you very much for that point. And I would like to
You're
equally
welcome.
share one aspect about my own journey, especially at the internship level. Like I said, I was that committed student, and I had so many advantages from my internship because the first job that I had my first job in the same hospital where I did my internship, and it was a recommendation from the staff there, at the laboratory. That's after internship, they called me back to come and work just from the way they saw me working during internship. I think one important aspect to that student that you mentioned, that student should uphold his commitment. And there's one very important point that I would like to chip in: punctuality during the internship. Yeah, during my time of internship, I had terrible classmates. I won't lie. You get some classmates, if you put a time at 8 a.m. for work to start, you get some students coming at 10, 11, some don't even come. So punctuality is a it's a critical aspect that uh, directors look in, especially when judging students. Because I can say one of the things that I was judged on was punctuality. And that's how I got my recommendation to come and work back in that hospital. So keeping a relationship good will actually benefit you, the student, right? So thank you very much for that particular point.
You're
Before
very
we get
welcome.
into the last question, I would like you to give your honest view of things. What's the gap between the theory and practice? in the field of medical laboratory sciences? Is the theory what we are being taught in school, is it reflecting what we do in the lab? What's the gap?
Okay, so that is a very beautiful question. I would like to applaud you for that question because I think we don't talk about it enough and we need to be talking about it more. So I will start by saying by talking about by sorry, excuse me. I will start by explaining that when you mean the gap, when we're talking about the gap between theory and practical, that is when students they spend 5 years in school, they're done with the 5 years in school, they come to the internship and then they're like, oh wow, I didn't know this. Oh wow, I didn't know this. I really experienced that. And of course, I wouldn't say that that had anything to do with my teachers or I wasn't taught enough. I just think that naturally, though, when you are learning something in class, it's always very different from practical. And I don't think that's the fault of anybody. It's just normal, it's human. A lot of things don't stick or make sense until you've done them. So, personally, I feel like that gap can be there. The fact that there's a huge difference between reading something and doing it. That's why a lot of people are like, ah, this thing is simple and it's so easy. And then you're there, you're like, okay, now you're reading on how to make a thin film, a perfect thin film, which we all know we all struggle with as MLS. Then you've read it in your textbook, they told you to angle it at some certain degree, and
Angles.
then you're like, ah, it shouldn't be that hard until you get there and you're angling it and it's
It's not
just not right.
right.
It's just not angling.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, there's there's a difference between reading it and then between
Doing it.
doing it. But apart from that, I think our syllabus still has a long way to go because, for instance, now there I have got a lovely privilege to work in molecular lab in Sin Lab. And of course, we've all been taught PCR. I learned PCR in schools, all them stages and all of that. But I'm telling you, I did not understand that thing until I was sitting in front of the machines and then I was learning a whole lot more.
Yeah.
All I will say is that our syllabus is still filled with too much basics. Our syllabus does not go into the details that it's supposed to with a lot more advanced processes. We're still sitting on a lot of, you know,
Staphylococcus.
processes that you know a lot of big organizations and laboratories have moved past. Even some government organizations and laboratories have moved past some of these basic things. So I think that we still have some way to go with our syllabus. It could be improved on. We could know more. We should know more. We shouldn't be too surprised and be having to learn a lot of things from the scratch. We should have more exposure theoretically so that when we get there we're like, oh, of course I've heard about this, I've heard about this particular thing, I've heard about these machines. Like, can we talk more on machines in our syllabus? Like, life has moved past these manual methods. Of course they are valid and I think we should know them because that is where you understand the principle, that is where you understand what is going on with the machines. But we need more exposure on this automation part. We need more exposure on the genomics, the molecular biology, because the world is moving fast, like I said, and the education system needs to catch up. It genuinely needs to catch up. But apart from that, I think when it comes to theoretical and practical, you may not really be able to get the full understanding of MLS until you have done both. And that's why they always try to incorporate clinical posting during um your school period. Like when you are in school, they try to incorporate clinical posting, which I think is very beautiful. At least you get to see a number of things. But a lot of places will not really let you to practice on patient sample, which is valid. You do not have a practicing license. That's why internship is actually the real learning part. But those ones too, they definitely matter and all. So all I'm just trying to say is that there is a gap, and As for the shock that comes with doing practical and realizing, oh, I don't know as much as I thought I did, that is absolutely normal. But when it comes to, the syllabus, the education system, I think we still need to improve a little bit. We need to advance with the times because, yeah, a lot of things have moved past what we are seeing in our textbooks.
Oh, thank you very much for that. That's an honest
Yeah.
answer. Sincere, fully. Another thing I would say, I'm so much interested about leadership in all aspects of life. And since I'm in the medical laboratory domain, I'm very passionate about leadership in this particular field. When it comes to leadership and teaching how to manage not just patients, right, in the laboratory, managing staffs, do you think we are being taught enough when it comes to leadership in the laboratory? Because it's a very critical point or aspect in the laboratory. Because if you can collaborate, if you can have a harmonious working together with your fellow colleagues, I don't think you are going to provide quality results to those patients who are sitting outside. It starts from within before those results move outside. So, do you think we have been taught enough about leadership in the laboratory domain?
Thank you very much for that question. And my straight answer would be no. No, we are not being taught enough about leadership and about interpersonal relationships, but also relating with leadership. Of course, we are taught that this is your senior scientist, you have to respect them, they are here for you to learn from. But a lot of times, we're not really taught, it's not a major topic, which was why I mentioned it when I was talking about skills you should have. You have to have interpersonal skills. You have to develop it on your own outside of MLS. And I won't say that, oh, it's such a crazy thing that we're not being taught. Let's be honest, when you're in school, they are majorly focusing on the career and the professional part. Um, a lot of learning involves you being willing to work on yourself plus what you are being taught in school. But apart from that, too, all I'll just say is that I know that in the healthcare system, there's a lot of toxicity, and I've said this multiple times because I have witnessed it where, people would speak to you anyhow because you're just an intern. They won't give you the space to learn. They would use you like a workhorse. They would turn you to what you were not here to do. And they enjoy it. They tell themselves, oh, I went through this, so let's continue it. And then the cycle continues. And when it's your turn to, you will do it to another intern. And then nobody is stopping the cycle. So we have decades of toxicity. We have decades of people that are, you know, being mean to people for no reason. So I think for leadership, we need to teach people how to be a leader, and we also need to teach people how to be led because insubordination is never good within the healthcare system. On the other hand, being mean and being unnecessarily rude to your subordinates in the name of being a leader and years of experience is also never right. So I think we have a long way to go when it comes to that because what I've noticed is that a lot of people are suffering when it comes to being an intern. They are working in places where they are spoken to anyhow. They think about going to work in the morning and their heart is just shattered because they know when they get to work, this madam there will tell them how they are so stupid and they know nothing. And we first of all read their life stories to them in a way that they do not enjoy. And they then lose what they are here for, which is to learn. When you do that as somebody who is meant to lead, you are ruining the chances of a better future. You now have people saying, MLS is such a toxic field, Jare, it's filled with toxic people. Is everybody there is just wicked? MLS are so wicked. You don't want that for our career. We don't want that for our profession, especially because we know that MLS is the future. MLS is literally the backbone of medicine, and we have underestimated our profession for so long that I think practices like this are what are holding us back. If we're in a point where we do not understand professionalism, we do not understand how to relate with people who are below us, so to speak, professionally, and above us professionally, then what are we doing as a profession? I think part of professionalism has to include, learning how to be a leader, learning how to impart knowledge without belittling people, and learning how to be led, and also learning that as a leader, you also have a lot to learn from people below you. Because remember, you probably went to school 10 years ago, things have changed, but you are stuck in your old ways and you believe no little intern can tell me or teach me or explain to me that this is the new way or there are better technology now. You don't want to even hear it. How dare that intern or how dare that new scientist tell me what to do or tell me how to think. I've been on this bench for 50 years. Okay. So we have a long way to go, and I would really love for this to be more of a topic, you know, if it could be put into our educational system, that would be beautiful. But even if it is not, more podcasts talking about it, talking about leadership in MLS, more books talking about it, more articles online talking about it, so that we can, enjoy it. Because I was fortunate to intern in a place where leadership was made approachable, completely changed my mindset on how to lead and how to be led and how good leaders are formed. And I got to understand that leadership and actually being somebody who commands the room does not come out of fear. It never does. All it is born of is you being setting boundaries, sticking to them, adhering to them, treating people like human, listening to them, and then making sure that you are always humble, you are approachable, and you always have a listening ear. Because if you are none of those things, you are never a leader. All you are is a head of state. And honestly, that's not a good place to be if you actually want to make a change and you want to see a change in the profession.
Thank you very much for that. You have mentioned a
You're
series
welcome.
of points and you've highlighted toxicity so many times. Talking about toxicity, I've had my fair share of it. Most definitely doing internship, but we thank God I was a focused student and I had to
I
learn,
think
to learn and
Yes, I
learn
think
again.
every professional has gone through that. It's something
The
that every
insults,
MLS healthcare professional has something to say about.
the heavy rain of insult and every other stuff. So it has not been easy. Thank you very much for highlighting those points. Indeed, you
You're
have a lot of
welcome.
work to do when it comes to leadership, influencing people without authority. People really need have to learn that. It's a very important point. And I can see Mr. Kenneth is a pure reflection of that. Just from reading
Yes,
his
he
post, you
is. He's
can
a
see
great
that
leader.
this is an amazing leader, right? Just from the tone, sometimes just from the tone of the person, you can know that this person, the way he leads is different from this other person. So from his videos, smooth sailing and all of that, it has been amazing. Learning every other thing has been good. So thank you. We have come
You're
to
welcome.
the very end of our session. I would say thank you, really. Thank you very much. And I would
You're
like you to
very
give
welcome.
us a
Thank you too.
keynote for this particular session, keynote to our fellow students, upcoming scientists, right? We have to be the good breed in this our profession so that the younger ones can emulate a better character when it comes to our profession of medical laboratory scientists. So tell us, what is a keynote message that you can give to a student?
Okay, so the first keynote that I'll give to any student is what I said in the beginning. When you're going into your internship, know that you're going in to learn. Secondly, I would say take your profession very seriously. There is a lot of carelessness around MLS. There's a lot of carelessness around how it is handled, about how it is talked about. A lot of people do not hold their profession in high prestige like other healthcare professionals do. You are comfortable with being called a nurse when you know you are a medical laboratory scientist. Ensure that you are that person who would correct a random stranger who says, "Oh, hello, nurse." You say, "No, I am a medical laboratory scientist." You need to be proud of your possession of your profession because you chose this profession, right? You are here, right? You spent 5 years in school, right? And you're about to spend one more year in internship. So you know very well what you have put into this, the time you've invested into this, and the best thing you can do for yourself is to be very, very proud of your profession and to carry your profession in high regard. Talk about it to anybody. When you speak to people and you say, I'm a medical laboratory scientist, and they say, I don't know what that is, educate them. Yeah. So that we can move from being a profession that people don't know anything about to a profession that is well understood, and it starts with you. And then three, be the professional that you want to see in the world. When you walk into a lab, remember it could be your family that is sick tomorrow. It could be you that is sick tomorrow. What kind of sciences do you want to meet there? Start by being that scientist yourself, by being that medical professional yourself. And then the third keynote is to remember that every sample is somebody's life. Make sure you never ever take that for granted. Every sample you deal with is somebody's life. There is somebody waiting at the end of that result. And then the fifth thing is to make sure that you ensure that quality is embedded in everything you do. Follow the SOPs, make sure you are always learning, make sure that you are always doing everything according to the rules. You are never above the SOPs, you are never above the laws, you are never above anything. And if you think for 1 second that you are above it, then you have failed as a scientist. And then my last point would be that remember that the more experienced you are and the better you get as a scientist, the more you will understand how much more careful you need to be as a scientist. At no point in your career should you believe that you are above checking something, fact checking, rechecking. The best scientists know that they are constantly learning. They are not people who get embarrassed because they forgot the full meaning of full blood count. They are people who will go online, check it, read it, learn it, remember it before they go on to do a full blood count test on somebody because they know that is somebody's test, and they are very, very careful with people's lives. And keep building, keep learning, and keep being the professional you want to see in the world.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you
You're
very much for
welcome.
those points. And thank you very much for honoring this invitation. Laptop. It's been an amazing
Thank you for
one
inviting me.
sharing the knowledge, especially with students. I'm sure a lot of students around our region are going to benefit from this. You learning from the
I'm
best
glad.
is an opportunity to actually share that with students who are maybe at the verge of starting their internship or already at their internship placement so that they get the best out of their internship period in the laboratory where they find themselves. So thank you very much, Blossom.
Thank you.